All right, I'm having trouble with my Facebook live stream. Can you check to see if I'm live on Facebook? Well, for those of you on Instagram, this is what you're going to need today. We're doing an experiment called coloring plants, and I'm live on Facebook. All righty. I guess we are live on Facebook and Instagram. So welcome back, Dr. Boyd, the chemist, and thanks for coming. Here is what we're doing today. We're doing an experiment on coloring plants. And what you'll need for today's experiment, you'll need celery. And again, I recognize that everyone has limited resources, so you may not have any celery with you. But if you have celery, you'll need that, or cabbage or lettuce. And you'll want to get it all the way at the bottom of the leaf, the stalk. Right? So if you have cabbage or lettuce, I think that should work also, particularly cabbage. A vase or a jar or some kind of container. Also, you'll need food coloring. Again, if you don't have the food coloring, you can follow along with me. And lastly, you'll need some water. So again, you'll need celery, a vase, food coloring, and water. You'll only need one color of food coloring. And I'm gonna just let that sit there for a little while. So as everyone signs in, hey, Coleys, I see you. As everyone is signing in, these are the items that you'll need. And we'll get started in about a minute and a half. All right. You see, we got the Star Jewels on Facebook there. Hello. I see you, Leslie, on Instagram. Howdy. If you hear strange noises going on in the background, that is my daughter. She has found her voice box and she is making it known. She has found those vocal cords. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, thank you for joining me today. This is the 8th lesson in our 2-week series here, and we are talking about plants today. Plants, and in our topic, coloring plants. So just want to review. First things first, what is the most important thing that a scientist must pay attention to whenever they do an experiment? All right, if you said safety, you've been paying attention. I mentioned that at the beginning of each lesson because it is the most important thing. I never want to harm myself. I never want to harm someone around me. I don't want to break equipment or destroy things, okay? Especially the equipment can be very, very expensive. I don't want to pay for having to get it repaired or replaced, all right? So it's very important for you to pay attention to safety for lots of reasons, okay? And what does a scientist like myself, a chemist who goes in the lab and does reactions, for example, what do I wear to stay safe? What can I wear to stay safe? Well, I can wear eye protection like goggles. I actually brought some to show you today. Goggles, okay? I can wear gloves on my hands to protect my hands. And I can wear a lab coat, all right? Now, today we won't need any of those items because the experiment that we're doing is very safe and very simple and straightforward. But did you bring your notebook? Okay, it is very important for a scientist to write down what they're doing. And as you're doing this at home with your parents and with your siblings, I want you each day to write down what the lesson is about and take notes as we go along. All right, so today for your topic, it is coloring plants. coloring plants. And we're going to have a discussion about plants. So I will ask you a few questions. The first question, what is a plant? What is a plant? All right, do you have an answer? Do you know what a plant is? Okay, plants are living things. Much like a person, a plant is alive. It's alive. We know it's alive because it needs things in order to grow, but then it grows. Okay, so let me ask this question first. What does a plant need in order to live? What does a plant need in order to live? Okay, gave you a little time there. I see you, Kevin Mead. Long time no see, man. Thank you, thank you. Uh, what does a plant need in order to live? Well, let's think about it. What does a person need to live? Many of the same things that a person needs, a plant also needs. All right. Well, a human being would need water. And yes, plants also need water. All right. A human being needs to breathe. Plants need to breathe. And I'll just pause for a moment to explain that a human, when I breathe in oxygen and I breathe out carbon dioxide. All right. The human body needs oxygen. Mammals, animals, we need oxygen in order to live, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. Plants play an important role in us breathing in oxygen, and that is because plants do the opposite. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. I see the Star Joes, they have some answers for me. They say that plants need water, they need soil, and they need sun. Good answer. Good answer. So in the soil, there are these things we call nutrients. All right. There are different kinds of nutrients in the soil that the plant needs in order to live. Okay. And yes, the plant needs sunlight, absolutely needs sunlight. And the sunlight is really important because the sunlight, the energy from it is captured in the leaves of the tree. And inside the leaves, there's a process that we call photosynthesis. I will spell that word so you can look it up later on. It's a really big word, photosynthesis. It is spelled PHOTOSYNTHESIS. Photosynthesis. I'll spell it one more time. Photosynthesis is spelled PHOTOSYNTHESIS. Photosynthesis. Okay? The process of photosynthesis is what gives the plant its food. That's how it eats. It uses the energy from the sun. That's where that term photo in that word comes from, the energy from the sun. Photo, and it takes that energy inside of its leaves and in the chlorophyll and converts it into food for the plant. Okay? So in order to live, plants need these four things. They need water. They need nutrients from the ground, from the soil that they're in. They need to breathe, so they need carbon dioxide, and they need sunlight. They need sunlight, and they convert that sunlight into food in its leaves, okay? So those are the things that plants need in order to live. But can you name the different parts of a plant? What are the different parts of a plant? So I have with me just some celery that we'll be using later on. What are the different parts? Well, imagine that this were a tree for a moment. There is this portion that we call the stem, or a tree, we might call it a trunk. Okay? From the trunk, there are these branches. There's branches. Okay? From the branches, we have leaves. All right? And then in addition to the leaves, some plants have flowers. All right. Then from some of those flowers, we can get fruit. Okay, so we have a stem or a trunk, we have branches, we have leaves, then we have flowers, and then we can get fruit. Now, I left out one very important portion of a plant. Do you know what it is? What is another part of a plant that is very important for a plant? All right, again, we mentioned the stem or the trunk. We mentioned the branches. We mentioned the leaves. We mentioned the flowers. And we mentioned the fruit. But there's another really important part of a plant that you can't normally see, or you can't see a lot of it, and that is its roots. So where the trunk goes into the ground, there's this part of the plant called its roots, and the roots go under the ground. And the roots are in the ground, in the soil, seeking water and nutrients. All right? So there's roots that are seeking the water and the nutrients, and that is how the plant gets its water into the rest of the plant. All right? So, how does a plant grow? Where does it start? It actually starts as a little seed. Okay? And we get the seeds in various ways, but there's seeds in the fruit. And sometimes the fruit falls off the tree. And when it falls off the tree, the fruit portion of it rots away. The seed portion goes into the ground, and then a tree grows. Another way you can get seeds in the ground is animals come and they eat the fruit that has the seeds in it. And then when the animal digests the fruit, the seed comes out in a totally different location and then goes into the ground. All right. And then sometimes we go and take seeds and just put them in the ground. We'll get the fruit, we'll get the seed out of the fruit, and we'll take the seeds and put them in the ground. Okay. And that is where the life of the plant begins. All right. So we have discussed the different portions of a plant. We've also discussed what a plant needs to live. So let's get into our experiment for today. What I'm trying to find out is, can I change the color of this greenish, yellow greenish celery? Can I change the color? All right. So what you'll need to do, and this is the experiment portion, what you'll need to do is you have your container. What you'll need is to fill your container with water about halfway. So this is just a glass. If you have a vase, that's awesome. If you have a jar, that's fine too. But you just need some container. And I would recommend a container that is clear so you can actually watch the process as it goes forward. So I take my container and I'm going to go get some water. I have some water back here. All right. So I have my glass filled with some water, and then next thing I need to do is I'm going to take some food coloring. I would recommend, if you have food coloring, that's awesome. If you don't, you can follow along. But in any case, if you do have food coloring, I would recommend using red or some version of red. I'm using kind of like a maroon purplish color here. And what you'll need to do is take a few drops and add it. Swirl that around a little bit to mix it up. In fact, let me go get a utensil. I'm gonna mix it up real good. All right, so that is the water portion of it. But next thing you want to do, if you have celery, and I know, again, many people probably don't just have celery lying around, but if you have celery, you'll notice that this edge is kind of jagged. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some scissors, or you can use a knife, and I'm just going to cut that so that I have more of a straight edge. Okay, you can see it there. I'm not sure if you can see it very well in my camera here, but around the edge of this celery, and I'll show the people on Facebook first and the folks on Instagram, there are what we call these like open holes in the celery. You can actually look down the end of it and see them. Those holes are called xylem. Okay, you might want to write that word down. Again, for my folks on Instagram, they're along the edge here, you can see there's these little holes, right? We call those xylem. That is spelled X as in X-ray, Y, L, E, M as in monkey, all right? Xylem, X, Y, L, E, M. And believe it or not, the xylem actually functions much like a straw. So imagine if you had a straw and you were trying to get your iced tea out of your glass with a straw, and you suck the iced tea up through your straw. That's kind of how these xylem function. The water comes in from the roots, and then it goes up the xylem, goes up the xylem, out through the leaves, and into the air. All right. That's what happens with the water. It goes up from the roots, through the xylem, all the way through the stem or the trunk, and eventually out through the leaves. All right. So what we're trying to find out today is if I change the color of my water from transparent, clear transparent to, in this case, purple, will my celery change color, or will any portion of it change color? If it does change color, then that suggests that the water traveled from the bottom up and out through the plant, through the leaves at the top of the plant. All right, and that's what we're going to find out. So once you have cut the edge of your celery, and again, if you have cabbage I believe should work. I believe lettuce also should work. But if you have cabbage, you want to get all the way down towards the base of it so that you have a portion like this at the bottom. And all we're going to do for today's experiment is we are going to take our celery and place it in our dyed water. And we're going to let it sit there for 24 hours. So when I meet back with you again tomorrow, you will have an answer as to whether or not we can change the color of our celery. But before we finish today, let's ask ourselves a few questions. First question, can you change the color of the celery using this method, all right, by dyeing your water and placing the celery in the water? All right, that's our question. Now, write down your hypothesis. Here are some example hypotheses. Remember that a hypothesis is an idea or a guess you can test. All right, is it testable? That is the standard for a hypothesis. And if the answer is yes, then you can write a hypothesis down. So here's an example hypothesis. First hypothesis, yes, it is possible to change the color of the celery by putting the celery in dyed water. Here's another example hypothesis. No, it is not possible to change the color of the celery by placing it in dyed water. Write down your hypothesis, okay? Write down your hypothesis. And what I want you to do is, for those who are able to do this at home, you have all the right materials. Every 3 hours or so, go look at your celery. In fact, if you have like a camera phone, just take a picture of it and see how it changes over time, or if it changes at all. If you do that, post the pictures, hashtag it Science Made Simple. That way I'll be able to go look it up and check it out. And here's a challenge question. Is it possible to change the taste or the flavor of celery using this method? Right? So imagine I put the celery in something that tastes good, like sweet tea. All right? Is it possible to change the flavor of the celery by putting it in sweet tea? That was just I like sweet things, especially sweet tea. So I just wanted to know the answer to that question. All right, that is all I have for today, but I did want to just invite everyone. Again, my YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube and search for Dr. Boyd, the Chemist, my channel will come up. Subscribe to it. I actually did run the experiment of putting celery in sweet tea. And so I haven't posted that video yet, but it should be posted within the next couple of days. And the answer, I think you'll enjoy. I've done this experiment. I haven't posted it yet. I will post it soon. Again, on Instagram, you can find me at science-made-simple_LLC. And I do have a Facebook group now called Science Made Simple LLC. You can find me there. And tomorrow we will be making a form of slime. And I know there are a lot of children who love that. And parents, I apologize. It will get a little messy. But this slime is environmentally friendly because we will only be using, and this is all you'll need for tomorrow. You need a bowl. If you have it, you'll need cornstarch and you'll need water. Okay, and you don't need a lot of these items. If you have them, you'll need a bowl, cornstarch, and water. All right, it will get a little messy, so you'll want to either put newspaper down or paper towel or something because it will get messy. But we will be discussing polymers and non-Newtonian fluids, and I'll explain what that is tomorrow. All right, thank you all so much. If you have any pictures of you all doing these experiments, hashtag it Science Made Simple. And I will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye.